I'm Sam.
And this is Gabe.
And this is Coaster Wars.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Coaster Wars podcast, where all we do is have technical difficulties and release episodes late. We are back.
If nothing else, we're consistently inconsistent. We're living up to our mantra. Yes.
I really do need to make shirts. I really do need to make shirts.
That
way, if we somehow encounter one of our 7 listeners in the wild, we'll just have matching shirts that say that. Like every time we go to an amusement park, we'll just wear those shirts. And then people will be like, hey, wait a minute. I know that shirt. And then I can have my little 10 seconds of fame and be like,
yes.
ha 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 ha. It'd be fun.
Yes. That would be so cool, actually. But Gabe,
what if we actually have more than 7 listeners, though? That would be weird.
We have to have more than 7 listeners. Looking at our analytics, we have we have almost 5,000 downloads already.
Ha! That's scary. You know what? Actually, we're done doing this now. I don't like this anymore.
Gabe doesn't want to be famous.
Well, famous is a relative term in the roller coaster community. Let's be honest.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I always tell people, I'm like, I don't think this is ever going to pay our bills. I'm not going to be that delusional about it. No, our goal, if anything, if anybody doesn't know, is theme parks have, press preview days?
Media days.
But you have to be invited to them. You can't just buy tickets. So I personally would love to get invited to a media day and get the first rides on new roller coasters. That would be the ultimate goal. That would be so cool.
Yeah, that would be awesome to be able to be the first person to ride a new roller coaster.
Yeah.
So
freaking awesome. So, and like Gabe said at the very beginning, we want to apologize for being a week late with this episode. Basically, my microphone went out on the headset that I used to record, and I didn't have anything suitable to re-record. So I had to get a microphone, and I finally got myself one, and we're good to go now. Again.
I also kind of died for a 4-day stretch there. So there was one point where I literally could not talk. So you can kind of still hear probably a little bit of rasp in my voice, which I naturally always have a little bit of rasp, but it's been worse than normal. Okay, so it kind of worked out. I'm not going to say it did, but it kind of did.
It kind of did. So with that, let's get into our episode today.
Oh, yes. We got a goodie here.
Oh, yeah. So this is roller coasters that have moved up in our rankings for 2025. And we have 2 fun ones today. Since we kind of jabbered on, why don't you introduce our fighters right away, Gabe?
All right. In the red corner, standing at a max height of 100 feet and reaching a top speed of 50 miles per hour, hailing from the farm fields of Illinois and the great America gym, it is Viper. In the blue corner, standing at a max height of 140 feet and reaching a top speed of 62 miles per hour, hailing from the hills of Pennsylvania and the RMC gym, it is Wildcats Revenge. Let the fight begin.
Yeah, so today I am bringing Wildcats Revenge. And what's fun about this guy is I got to get 3 rides on it because I rode it back in 2023, and then Gabe got to ride it. So you'll get to get his actual I've ridden the roller coaster opinion of this guy.
Yeah, Wildcats Revenge is a very, very good coaster. Viper is not one of those coasters we talk a lot about.
Yeah.
But it's becoming very, very, in the recent times, a good roller coaster, actually.
Yeah.
Another little, tidbit. I forgot what I was going to say now. I just had a complete brain fart. You know what? This is going to be one of those. It's going to be an episode, guys. It's going to be an episode.
Even if you're not super into roller coasters, just join us for the ADHD, guys. Let's be honest.
The whole introducing the roller coasters thing, that's okay. It makes me chuckle a little bit because I completely made that up as a joke.
Yeah, he
Like
did. He
I
did.
just sent it to you as a joke, and it just makes me chuckle every time because now we do it in just about every single episode, and I'm like, that was 100% a joke when I initially talked about it, and now
I
it's like one of the things our podcast does like every episode.
Exactly. It's a fun little tidbit, and I love that I can like mess with it in editing and like make him sound all echoey, and I added music to make it epic, and it's fun. It's Let's be honest, it's fun.
Yeah, but
So
with that, let's just dive right into Viper. So Viper is a roller coaster that is very close to home for us. It's at what we consider our home
yes.
park. Sorry, Mount Olympus. And it's just a coaster for a long, long time. We just didn't ride. It was like I was always the other wooden coaster at Great America because you had obviously the American Eagle. That's the staple Woody. And then you have coasters like Raging Bull, and then they put in Goliath in like 2014, and you have the Superman Flyer. That's always a fan favorite at Great America. So this
Mm.
was always just like the other coaster that was there. And so like you walk over to the Southwest Territory, which is where this coaster is located, and you're like, I want to go ride Raging Bull. So you walk past it, go over and ride Raging Bull, and then you kind of continue your lap around the park and kind of completely forget about Viper. It was also, I do kind of remember it being slightly rough at times. I don't know if you
Mhm.
do. So that I
When
think that
we
was
when
another
we
problem.
first started going to this park, we went with our parents. And so it was kind of like we went, I don't want to say we went on the rides that our parents wanted to go on, because if we wanted to go on something, we could go in line by ourselves. But our parents always said that it was rough, so we didn't bother getting in line for it.
Yeah, so it was just always a coaster that we kind of forgot about. And then so in the last, I'd say 3 years,
Mm-hmm.
would you? In the last 3 years, though, I've kind of either A, been forced to get rides on it due to closures of other coasters, or B, just kind of happened to say, screw it. We haven't ridden this thing in a while. Let's go walk back there.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I get off of it, I end up lapping it. like
Yes.
no, I'm serious. Like every time I get off, I'm like, hey, we should do that again. That was really fun. Or there's nobody in the station. It's like, hey, let's just sit in this train and just do a couple laps on this thing. Like it is a
Mm-hmm.
very, very enjoyable roller coaster. It's definitely smoothed out over the years. And it's kind of really shot up in the Great America landscape. Like obviously it's not going to be the best coaster there,
No.
but it's not a coaster you forget about anymore. I don't think, at least.
No, and not one that you like try to skip either. I remember, I think I got back on this. I'm trying to remember what freaking year it was because they all meld together. But I basically came back from
That's
traveling
part of
from
getting older, Sam.
I know. And I have a bad memory as it is, goodness
Yeah,
gracious.
this is not great.
Believe it was when I came back from my first traveling contract, which would have been 2023. And me and my cousin went down to Six Flags because we hadn't been there in a while, especially together. And I forget why we ended up getting in line for this. I think it was one of those things where we were heading back to Raging Bull and decided to get in line. And the other thing too is sometimes when we used to go and get in line for it, sometimes it would have a super long line. We're like, well, it's not worth the wait. So we wouldn't wait for it. But this specific time it was a really short line. So we got in line and I rode it again and I was like, oh my God, like what happened to this thing? It's like this is actually a decent roller coaster. And then that's when I personally like looked into it and found out that they'd been retracting it. So
And I kind of had the same thing too, where I got off and I was like, "What the heck? This is not how I remember this thing at all. Like, where
uh-huh.
did this come from?" And then yeah, it turns out they've like completely, basically, I think it was last summer, so 2020, the summer of 2025, we'll say, is when they
Mm-hmm.
finally finished the full retrack of the entire coaster. And you could really tell.
Mm-hmm.
But even like during the retracking process, you could see the improvement. And then it was kind of the same story for me too. So me and my girlfriend went to go visit this park, and we were walking back to Max Force to rope drop that because of its reliability issues. And of course, we get there when it's not closed. So then we were like, screw it. We'll go up to the Wizard and we'll come back. So we go up to the Wizard, we ride the Wizard right away, just because that does have a tendency to build up some lineage.
Yeah.
Come back to Max Force, it's still closed. All right, well, let's go back and ride Raging Bull. So we're going to back to ride Raging Bull, and I just happened to see the sign for Viper, and it was like wait time, 0 minutes. And I'm like, screw it. We'll go ride this thing while, where we're on our way. I haven't been on it in a while. And then, yeah, we got off it. I'm like, yeah, we're definitely doing that again. And then we got off. I think I rode it like 3 or 4 times before we finally moved on. And then, of course, we got to Raging Bull and it was closed. So then, because it was down for a maintenance mechanical failure. So then we're like, screw it. Let's go back to Viper. We rode that a couple more times. It was just so much fun. It's a coaster that you kind of get off now that, like, yeah, it's not the most intense. It's not the most forceful. But it does have some really good floater airtime and some really, really good lateral forces.
Oh, yeah. The fun thing about this is it's an in-house build. So it's in-house designed. And let's just say that any Woody that was built in-house has a certain level of character to it. Like,
that is true. That is very true.
Like, I'll let Gabe get into the layout, but there's like one portion where the track is going like under, because it ends up like looping under itself. And there's like a section I remember like from watching the POV where it has to like cut over like maybe 1 or 2 inches to like go around the track that goes in the other direction. And it's like, it looks like such a janky moment in the POV. And of course it's like, it's just a switch, like a really, really snappy, like quick little 2-inch like jerk off to the side. But when you're speeding on a roller coaster, you feel that so much. So this thing is fun. It just is fun.
Yeah. So the one thing to keep in mind with this layout is this is a Coney Cyclone.
Okay.
Clone. That's a tongue twister, apparently. So it is a clone of the clone. I'm just gonna give up. Anyway.
Just call it the Cyclone.
The Cyclone, yes.
Yeah.
Coney Island Cyclone. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, there. Done. So you leave the station on this roller coaster, and you do a big sweeping 180-degree turn to the left, and that sends you into the lift hill. And that takes you to the max height of 100 feet, and then now you're staring down an 80-foot drop. So it doesn't quite drop all the way back down to 0. The other thing, too, is it does have like a slight twist to the left on the first drop as you're going down it. So in the back car, you do get some really good airtime, but you do get a snap of laterals too. You drop down into the first drop and then you ascend. Okay, we're having technical difficulties here. Let me get my YouTube to work. Honestly, just leave this in. This is part of this episode. Okay, hold on. Let me rewind this. All right, so you drop into the first drop. I'm doing great, guys. And then, so you go to the first drop, you pull up into like an elevated turnaround to the left, to the right. Wow.
Poor Gabe is having a day, guys. Just cut him some slack.
So you turn to the right, and it's an elevated turnaround, so you basically pop up, and then you slow way down, and then you kind of do the turn, and then you dive back towards the ground. And this sends you underneath the structure of the rest of the coaster. This coaster really weaves in and out of itself quite well. You then pop up into a traditional airtime hill. Very good moment. Then as you're diving back towards the ground, you do snap to the right, just a hair. I think that's one of those moments that Sam was probably talking about where it just has a slight change of direction in the track. But because there's 0 banking and there's not like a smooth profile, it does give you that little bit of like a lateral snap at the end of that airtime hill. Mm-hmm. You then pop up into another kind of elevated turnaround element. It's a 180-degree turn to the left. And this is another turn that has like 0 banking. So basically, as you're turning to the left and you're ascending, you are slowing down a little bit, but you're getting pushed to the side of your car. And that gives you some really good dose of laterals. At the very end of the turn, you then flat out into another airtime hill-esque moment as you dive back towards the ground. You then pop up into another traditional airtime hill. Very good floater G's on that moment. You dive back towards the ground and then pop up into the second kind of elevated turnaround with 0 banking. It's another 180-degree turn to the left. And you then now dive back towards the ground and pop up into another airtime hill. And this is another airtime hill with that slight twist to the right that gives you some really good airtime and laterals at the same time.
Mhm.
You then dive back towards the ground. You have one more speed airtime hill before popping up into another 180-degree turn to the left with some basically no banking. Another good dose of laterals. You then dive back towards the ground. You're now in the structure of the initial lift hill. You get another good airtime hill. You then get one more airtime pop that sends you into another 180-degree turn, and then finally into the final brakes. You do a lot of turning on this roller coaster. I always forget that.
Yes. I'm
So, but that's a
sorry.
really cool part about this.
Yeah,
What?
we say turning and a lot of turning, and all I can think of is on the legend when we go, "Hey
Oh,
Sam,
yeah.
we're
We're
still
still
turning."
turning. It
Sorry.
is kind of probably the same amount of turning as the legend, but just broken up.
Yeah, yeah.
Realistically, it's
Yes.
basically like a bowl style layout. So that's why you have a lot of turning in it. And that's the other cool thing about this roller coaster is you get a lot of like twisted wood around you, and you get a lot of
Mhm.
like tunneling aspect, especially like on that last lap around because you're like the lowest, closest to the ground, so you're like in the structure. So it gives you a really good like head chopper tunneling speed moment to
Mhm.
combine with all of your forces. And I think that's another underrated part of this roller coaster.
Oh yeah. And I another thing I want to mention too is that if you heard in the beginning, a lot of those moments are a little bit bigger and drawn out. And then basically, like, as you're like spiraling around this roller coaster, all of the elements like slowly get closer and closer to the ground, meaning you keep a relatively consistent speed throughout this entire layout, which is really, really nice. It means those forces hit you really well. Those non banked turnarounds are like, Gabe said, very good lateral moments, and a lot of these airtime hills give you some pretty good forces on them.
Oh, absolutely. I do think there is something to note there because I feel like, especially from when we were younger, when we were kids and stuff riding this roller coaster, I feel like some of the profiling has changed. I feel like when they retracked it, they probably changed it a little bit or probably addressed some high stress areas.
Mm-hmm.
And in doing that, it just I could be completely wrong. They could have just literally taken the old track out and put new track in, but I do have a suspicion that they did change some of the profiling ever so slightly to increase maybe a force here or there or accentuate a moment basically.
Yeah. Well, and another thing we have to talk about with retracking is that it gets rid of some of the roughness. And when a coaster is less rough, it also moves faster. So this thing is probably
Yes.
actually running faster than when we rode it as kids.
Yeah, absolutely. That definitely is a thing. Like, especially with wooden roller coasters, just
Mm-hmm.
because they do see a lot of structural fatigue over the years. Not unsafe structural fatigue, but you can
No.
feel it. And when you're riding the roller coaster, it gets rougher and rougher. So when you do a retrack, you do gain some of that speed back because you don't have some of that potholing and rattling and stuff like that and jackhammering. That's the big thing that really hurts a
Yeah.
coaster's speed because obviously if you're bouncing back and forth on the track, that's going to kill your momentum. So
Yes.
there is something to say about that too. Is when you retrack a roller coaster, it does gain some speed back. It's another reason why the
Yes.
voyage always stays so good
Oh,
is because they're constantly every off season retracking that roller coaster. So it's kind of the same thing. It's always maintaining the speed that it originally had when it opened.
yes. So, and then from a nostalgia point for me, at least, just because this is our home park and me and Gabe have been going here since we were kids, it's kind of cool to see them sticking some money and like repairing and keeping up with the maintenance on what is basically a childhood memory for me and Gabe. So that's cool from my perspective. So,
Oh, absolutely. But with that, do you want to transition over to Wildcat's Revenge?
yes, Wildcats Revenge. So this is a 2023 RMC Iron Horse conversion at Hershey Park of the previously named Wildcat. It is 140 feet tall. That is also the height of the drop. It is 3,500 feet of track, 82 degrees on that drop, a top speed of 62 miles per hour. And we have 4 inversions to talk about. Now, with this one, I'm like, this is the history season for some reason of our podcast. And I've been getting into it a lot more lately, especially because I have to, like, I physically have to do research for these episodes. So there is actually history in the Wildcat name at Hershey Park, and I'll go through this really quick. So in the 1920s, there was a PTC roller coaster named Wildcat that sat where is the ride name that I put in here? I'm sorry. I'm
Is this
like,
where Lightning Racer is now?
no, I think it was Storm Runner. It was existed
Oh,
where Storm
Storm
Runner
Runner.
does. Yes. So this is a 1920s PTC Woody, and it operated until 1945. So that's 25 years that I got out of it. But what I found interesting about this is Hershey didn't actually own this ride. PTC leased the land from Hershey to put their roller coaster here, which I thought was cool. And this thing had a tunnel in the 1920s, which I found crazy.
Honestly, that's kind of cool. If you think about it, though, that section of the park is definitely very hilly.
Yes. Yeah, actually. So, but then after that roller coaster was torn down, we then have what was the predecessor to Wildcats Revenge. It was a GCI Woody built in 1996, and it was GCI's first coaster. So that's really cool. I'm a little bit sad that I didn't get a chance to ride it,
Yes,
but
the original GCI.
yes. So it was 106 feet tall, a top speed of 50 miles per hour, and this thing pulled 3.5 Gs. It ran PTC trains until the 2007 season, and it operated until 2022 when it was then torn down and converted into Wildcats Revenge. So,
Yeah, from everything that I understand, the original Wildcat was not a bad coaster. It just
uh
kind of
huh.
had aged out of comfortable
Yeah.
rideability.
Yeah.
So it was just getting kind of rough. I do know a lot of people said it was kind of a safer bet for GCI, so it wasn't like one of their top dog kind of
Mm-hmm.
like really amazing roller coasters, but for their basically for their prototype, it was a very good attempt and a very solid coaster throughout the years. It just kind of got rough and kind of aged out of people riding it.
Yeah. So with this guy, another thing I want to point out. So with Viper, it was kind of like mine and Gabe's opinion of the roller coaster moved it up in our lists. But with Wildcats Revenge, when I first rode this, it was my 100th credit. I thought this thing was amazing. It sat at number one on my list for quite a while. And then we got down to Georgia and rode Air Force One. And Air Force One, very quickly, I thought topped Wildcats Revenge. And then we went back to Hershey and I got to ride this guy in literally like 100-degree weather. And it upped the intenseness of this roller coaster like absolute crazy. So I don't know if it was a reed ride combined with the weather or it was just the weather and it was moving that much faster. But this guy jumped back to number one on my list. And I think when you're talking about roller coasters or even just like ranking RMCs specifically, they're different people would say different ones are better for different reasons. When I was riding this guy for the first time, there was another park goer wearing an Iron Gwazi shirt. And so I asked him if he thought Iron Gwazi was better or if this was better. And I had one person tell me Iron Gwazi and I had another person tell me Wildcats Revenge. So Gabe keeps Iron Gwazi at number one on his list, and I haven't ridden Iron Gwazi. So that would be really interesting to see where I place it.
I think when it comes to the top tier RMCs, you do prefer because I will say this RMC, and then some of them do feel cookie cutter,
Yep.
but they do a good job, especially with the newest RMCs like Wildcats Revenge versus Iron Quasi, and even versus Steel Vengeance. At least the ones here in the U.S., the newer ones, kind of do have their own personalities a little bit. I
Mm-hmm.
think Wildcats Revenge is probably the most different out of all of them, though, because RMC always focused on airtime. Everything they
Mm-hmm.
do is airtime. And don't get me wrong, there's some really good airtime in this roller coaster, but they focused on pacing, I feel like, and
Yep.
more of a relentless intensity on this roller coaster than necessarily just straight ejector airtime all the time. And I think that's the biggest difference is between this and like an Iron Gwazi is that it does have a little bit more of that. I would almost call this a combination between Iron Gwazi and Steel Vengeance.
I
So
could
like it
definitely see
has
that.
some of the pacing and kind of out of control experience that a Steel Vengeance has, but it has the diversity between each element, and each element feels individual that the Iron Gwazi has. So it
Yes.
is a very good middle ground, and it is different than some of their other larger RMCs because it is more compact.
Yes. So, talking about the intensity on this roller coaster, there are not too many roller coasters that me and Gabe like can't handle. And then on top of that, Gabe can handle more than I can. And even we rode it, I think, twice in a row. And we're like, all right, after this lap, we have to get off and take a break because holy freaking cow. This is a ride you actually have to hang on for, especially if you're riding it in the back row because holy crap.
Yeah, this is another one where we're almost like, all right, let's jump to the middle of the train. Now we can
Yeah.
get some break from the actual extreme back row force. We kind of
Yes.
did that on, was it Twisted Timbers we did that on?
Yeah, we tried to. I still
Yeah,
didn't
but
like it
this
in the
is
middle.
way better than Twisted Timbers in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah.
Way better. Like this coaster isn't even close or comparable to that ride.
Yeah. So let me get into a quick layout right here. So you have a small little pre-lift section, which I love because we don't get them very often. You have a oh my gosh, I'm right there with you, Gabe. Goodness gracious. You have a slight left out of the station that leads into a little speed hill, and then another slight left before a banked right turn that brings you into that lift hill. Now, keep in mind, this is like a really slow, like you're just kind of rolling out of the station. It's not very fast, but it's fun, and we appreciate that, especially because, like Gabe said, the rest of this ride is a relentless onslaught that punches you in the face. So we like a little break. So then you head up that lift hill, and it is very steep, and about halfway up, it speeds up, and that sends you into that 140-foot straight down drop that is actually very good on this ride, and that sends you straight into that step up flip. It is the first inversion on this ride. And now I'm going to have Gabe describe it because he's so much better at describing these elements than I am. So please.
So the step up under flip is it's basically like a barrel roll, but it's on an incline. So you're basically is gaining elevation, you're ascending, and the roller coaster flips you upside down, very kind of like snappy element.
Mm-hmm.
But when you get to the basically 270 degrees, so you basically done a full inversion and you're at like the 90-degree banking part, it then just kind of hangs you there for like I'd say like half a second, and then
Yep.
it just kind of turns into a banked descending turn. So it's a very snappy element, but it is on like an airtime hill shape.
Yes.
So it does kind of slow down at the top of the element and give you almost like a stall,
Yep.
but not, you get more like twistiness in the beginning of it, and it's more of a fluid element. There's like, it's not like a snap, like a stall is a snap in and a snap out, right?
Yep. Yep. Yep.
This is more like one fluid transition all the way through. You kind of go through the inversion, you get that little moment where it's just kind of hanging there, and then you get a fluid flow into like the descending banked turn.
Yes, thank you. So that sends you, as you dive back into the ground, a big sweeping right turn before a straight airtime hill, offering you great ejector on that guy, and even a little bit of floater on the way down, maybe. And then you pop up into an off axis speed hill before a huge wave turn that drops you into the 0G stall. Now, the 0G stall, you do get stall. It is there. It's not a steel curtain 0G stall, but it's definitely a very quick element. I think part of that too is just how fast you're moving through this roller coaster. And that leads into a big sweeping right turn that transitions into a wave turn that then pops you up into another wonky airtime moment. Now, if you watch the POV,
It's the best moment on a roller coaster.
it looks very awkward. And basically, this element is going over another piece of track. So you have to like, it pops you straight up, and then at the apex, you like turn really quick. You have this really snappy turn. It's very quick, it's very short, it's very small, but it is super whippy. And then you have like a straight piece of track, almost like it would be a brake run, but there are no brakes. And then you like snap again, a little bit of a turn, and then you go back down. And it's very, very quick. You go through this entire element. Like, I make it sound like separate elements, but you move through this whole thing pretty fluidly and very quickly. So it is realistically one element, but it is so wonky. It's so weird. It gives you great forces. It is an awesome moment on this roller coaster, and the POV does it absolutely no justice.
Basically take like a normal airtime hill,
Mm-hmm.
put a slight turd in it, and then
Yeah.
cut the top off of it
Yeah.
and flatten it
Yes.
out. That's exactly what it looks like.
Yes. So, and then after that, it sends you into a 0G roll before a sweeping left turn that transitions into a wave turn. And then you head into the final 0G roll that leads you into a left turn with a speed hill in it. And then a final airtime hill, but you are slightly banked at the top and you snap into the other direction for banking. It looks subtle on the POV, but you're like, you really feel anything on here that I describe as subtle does not feel subtle. Just remember that. And you then have one last pop into those final breaks. So pacing really is the name of the game with this roller coaster. You are moving in what feels like 100 different directions every second of this roller coaster. All the inversions are very good, and it just like, I remember getting off this the first time and I was just like, what even? And I remember too, because this was my 100th credit, I wanted so badly for my first ride on it to be the back row. And this was a new roller coaster at the time. So it was very busy. It was very popular. And I even had the fast pass, but the lady who was like directing where you went in the train would not let me sit in the back row. I was very mad about it, but whatever. I was like, she's just doing her job, I guess. So my first ride on this was not the back row, and I still thought it was insane. And then I got back row and I thought it was even more insane. And then we got back and I got to ride it in the dead heat of summer. And I was like, I did not think this thing could get even more intense, and it somehow did. It is an absolutely crazy ride experience.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a good example, like, right? There are some parks you go to and you get off, quote unquote, the best coaster at the park, and you're like, is it actually though? Like, you
Yeah.
kind of question, like, Great America's a great example of that. They don't have a standout number one roller coaster, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Dorney Park is kind of like that. Canada's Wonderland, one of the biggest parks in the continental U.S., doesn't have a standout. I mean, some people say it's Yukon Striker, but you could argue it's Leviathan. You could argue it's Behemoth. You could probably, if you're crazy, argue a different coaster. Like, even Vortex at Canada's
Oh
Wonderland,
my
some
gosh, the
people
thing was
probably have that as their
awesome.
favorite ride. So, like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of parks you can go to and go. Kings Island is another one where it's
Oh
like,
yeah.
what's truly the best ride here? Is it Orion? Is it the Beast? Is it Mystic Timbers? Is it Banshee? Is it,
Yeah.
Diamondback? So, like, no, when you go to Hershey Park, clear cut number one, Wildcats Revenge. No
Yeah.
question. You get off
Yep.
that ride, and I did the same thing because I think it was actually second to last coaster, because then we had to ride Sky Rush, I believe.
Yep. Yep.
Sky Rush and Comet were the last two that we rode.
Sky
So,
Rush was Gabe's 200th, so we were like trying to
yes.
count the coasters to make that his 200th credit.
But we had a good portion of the credits done by then, I think,
Uh-huh.
because we're Wildcats Revenges in the park. I got off this thing, I'm like, even before riding Sky Rush, I'm like, yeah, this is the
Yeah.
number one ride here.
Yeah.
It's not even close. Now, is
Uh-huh.
Sky Rush probably my favorite coaster at that park? I would say yes. But when
Yep.
it comes to like objective, non-opinionated, like the most non-opinionated opinion you can give, because at the end of the day, everything's an opinion.
Right?
Wildcats Revenge is the best coaster
Yes.
at Hershey Park, and it's not even close. And that is insane if you really think about it, because you have coasters like Sky Rush, Candemonium, Fahrenheit, underrated coaster, by the way,
Yeah.
Storm Runner. Like,
Uh-huh.
these are not just everyday roller coasters we're naming off. These are heavyweights in the roller coaster community. And we got off Wildcats Revenge and we're like, yeah, this is definitely the
Yep.
best one here.
Exactly. So this thing was freaking awesome. And I do think it is going to probably sit at number one on my list for a very long time, unless we get my butt down to ride Arngwazi.
Who knows? You might hate Iron Claws. You might look at me and go,
Exactly.
the
Who
heck
knows?
is this
Or,
thing?
I might go to the same park and ride Montu and go, well, Montu's my favorite. I don't think it'll beat this, but you never know.
Montu is good. I will say that. Montu is very good. Did I keep Montu in my top 15?
I don't think you did. Well,
I don't
you
think
did. You did. I think.
I did. I
I
think
don't
I
think
made
you
it a
did.
point to keep it there. I think I
Yeah,
did.
because
All right, well, hold on.
You
Let's go
wanted to
look. I still
keep.
have its name.
Hold on, guys. It was shiny. We got to
Hold
check.
on.
So
Hold
I
your horses. Apparently, that's a Midwestern saying. I didn't know that.
really,
Apparently
if
that's
anything,
what
I
I
would
was
have.
told today at work from
I
a
didn't know
person
that
from
either.
California.
That's
Apparently,
hilarious.
hold your horses, guys. Is that a Midwestern saying? I don't know. I think it
I
is.
wouldn't have
Maybe
thought it
not.
was a Midwestern saying, but that's hilarious. Since you're looking, are you done looking? Did you pull it up?
It's at 14. Yes, I did make
Okay.
it a point to keep it
I
there.
was gonna say, I remember us having the discussion about Talon, and you were like, Montu is better than Talon. So, and I have Talon in my list because I decided that Talon was better than Batman.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Anyway, back to
Anyways,
Wildcats Revenge. Back to
yeah,
your regularly scheduled program.
right?
I warned you guys. To be fair, I
Exactly.
warned you guys at the beginning of this episode. It's going to be one of those episodes, all right?
Our ADHD is like bad normally, but once you get us tired, are you kidding? Oh no. We have less control.
Yes.
So I do think that brings us to the end of our episode here. And this is a little bit of David versus Goliath. Well, I don't think so, because in reality, Wildcats Revenge isn't really that much bigger. But I would take Wildcats Revenge over Viper.
Yeah, I kind of put Viper in a battle it just couldn't win.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Wildcats Revenge is a very, very good roller coaster from start to finish. Viper is not a bad roller coaster, but it is
No.
a traditional Woody versus a hybrid. So, I mean,
Yep.
hybrids can just do more. If we had put Viper against another Woody, I think it would have been a lot closer battle.
Yes.
But
We have an episode coming up where we both picked Woody roller coasters, and if like either I had slotted that in or Gabe had slotted that in against the coaster that either one of us picked, I could definitely see this being very much a closer battle.
oh, absolutely. But that being said, I mean, Wildcats Revenge, that is a top tier. Some people have it as a number one overall
Yeah,
roller coaster. It is world class. And
exactly.
Viper just is just a little bit in a league below that.
Yes. I do want to point out here, if anybody is new, if we have new listeners, when me and Gabe pick a winner of this battle, it is not a knock on the other roller coaster. Like if you go
No,
to Six Flags Great
absolutely not.
America, do not skip Viper. It is an amazing roller coaster. Especially another thing we like to talk about is, like Gabe said, this is a hybrid versus a Woody. So that is making it difficult. In the Woody land of things, if we just take Woodies into account, it is a decent wooden roller coaster. But then you also have to think about the conditions and the time that it was built in. Like for Viper being an in-house build, and when did we say it was built? Was it built in the 90s?
I don't remember. I think it's early
1995.
2000s. Oh, it is 1995.
So in 1995 wooden roller coaster, first of all, to still be standing, for them to put money into a retrack, and then just like a wooden roller coaster built in the 1990s, like this is a decent roller coaster. So don't
Viper is one of those coasters, like when people talk about how good the lineup is at Great America, like
yeah.
how solid it is from top to bottom. Viper is definitely a coaster that rounds that out. Like
Yes.
without Viper, you might not say that as much about that park, even as much as it gets forgotten in that lineup sometimes. It is a very, very solid roller coaster.
Yes. So with that, why don't we get into our schedule a little bit
Yes,
here?
our next episode. Oh, I'm gonna tell you right now, episode 8 gonna be the closest battle of season 3. We are in
You
season 3, right?
Yes, we are in season
Okay,
3.
good.
So, to explain our next episode, and of course, I'll do this at the beginning of the next episode, but just to preface this so everybody knows what the hell we're talking about, we're calling this the RCDB Challenge. Now, if you're new here or you don't know a lot about roller coasters, there is a website called rollercoasterdatabase.com. That's what RCDB stands for. And it is a website me and Gabe go to a lot of times for not only like consistent, but also our basic stats on wooden roller coasters. Or not wooden roller coasters, all roller coasters, cheese and crackers. And basically, when you load up this website, there's just like it literally says random roller coaster when you open the website. And so me and Gabe basically just went through and refreshed until we hit a roller coaster that we had ridden. And it took me for freaking ever. It took me 53 times to get this roller coaster, but Gabe says this is going to be close, and it is going to be close, but at the same time, it is also one of the most random matchups ever. Realistically, these two coasters would never be talked about in the same conversation, except for on our podcast.
They are very similar, though. Like, when you really, like, get down to the details, like,
Yeah,
even the
actually.
location and kind of how the roller coaster is built and where it is in the park, like, they just are, they're very different, but very similar, if that makes sense.
Yes. So, and then after that, we have a battles episode that we're calling Fun Size, which I love so much. And these are coasters that are under 100 feet tall. And we have two fun ones. This is going to be a fun episode. Let's just be honest.
For sure.
So,
but with that, we do have a slight change. I believe we were doing a gravity group coaster episode.
Yeah.
However, we did get a suggestion. We cannot shout them out yet. We don't have permission. But the episode is going to be the dilemma of Kings Island.
Yes.
So we're going to talk about everything Kings Island. We did visit there this past summer, so we do have a very recent visit at that amusement park.
Yes.
But we're just going to kind of talk about what Kings Island is and why it's a problem.
Yes. And if that sounds weird, just listen to the episode and you'll find out why we don't have a problem with Kings Island, why Kings Island is a problem.
Yes.
That'll be
Kings Island itself is
exactly. So this will be a really good like rundown of the coasters that are at the park and our opinions on them, but basically the problem with Kings Island. So please join in for that. We're kind of keeping this very ambiguous, so I'm hoping people listen to it just to like, what the frick are they talking about?
I feel like that's what we're gonna have to do with that episode, like kind of reel people in a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe do a little clickbaiting. No, not clickbaiting. It is gonna be very fun, a very interesting episode.
Yes.
Just kind of a touch on how amusement parks run in general as well.
Yes.
It's a different episode for us. We're trying something a little new. It is technically a special episode, but it'll be a very enjoyable one, I think.
Exactly. So with that, everybody, thank you for listening this week and join us next week for our RCDB challenge episode.
And I hope you all have a great day.